Good evening, everyone. Actually, there's a hair here. Sorry, I hope everyone is doing well. I feel a little... What's the word I'm looking for? No, not out of breath. I'm thinking... I think the term is energised. I'm thinking about that little rally over in London that's going to happen on the 13th of September. And I'm thinking, of course, what I would give to be able to get up on stage once more. Anybody who doesn't know, anybody who's new here, I actually ended up sharing a platform with Tommy Robinson. And I might even link that in the description below so you can see it for yourself, because I do bring receipts with a little bit of Tommy added tax on the side. Anyway, I would like people, if they're interested in seeing it, to go watch it. Feel free to share it, do whatever. I know there are going to be a lot of people that are speaking up on that stage in London, but what I would give to also be given that opportunity. Who said not after the last crater you caused? Shut up, you. I'm not that bad. I do accept that I swan dived off the stage and nearly hurt myself, but I wasn't that fucking heavy. Oh, there you are. Hey, oh dear. Caught me off guard this time. But today I want to talk about a number of things. I want to talk about, first and foremost, the biggest hot topic right now, which is the Afghan resettlement. £7 billion of our taxpayers' money went into a covered up little scheme that the establishment have been up to. And for context, I'm talking multiple governments, so you can't just blame the Tories for this one, or Labour. They are both equally responsible. Hell, if it's far enough back, it might have even had the Liberal Democrats in there. But what effectively was going on was these 25,000 Afghans were basically, well, there was a scheme to basically resettle those people here in the United Kingdom. Now, I want you to bear in mind that per 10,000 people, there's a conviction rate of 59 people per 10,000 for crimes of a sexual nature. And I already made clear that the Eritreans were 20 times more likely to commit an act of sexual nature, a crime, versus an English national. And I think they've all known this all this time. I think they've known the fact that these Afghanis aren't exactly well known for their respectable nature, shall we say. In fact, they're about as respectful as a seagull to fish and chips. Last time I checked, I thought it was illegal to go soliciting young girls. And hell, I've mentioned a couple of stories, including one in Norwich recently, where some of our own locals had to go out and take out the trash. Because let me tell you something. Our girls are not your property. They're not sleeves for you to use and abuse. Here we have our consecutive establishments, the oligarchy, going out of their way to not only protect these people, but to give them housing and homes. When a lot of these fuckers, last time I checked, would have had to cross through a considerable number of safe countries just to get to here. And I find it funny how they always try to say, oh, we've been running for 9 months. Now we're finally safe. You were always fucking safe. You chose to not safely leave yourself in a safe country, even if you could categorically say that Afghanistan was a war zone. But that's the thing. You might be able to pull the wool over the eyes of the lefty NPCs who have about as much collective intelligence as a lobotomized squirrel, but you won't be able to pull the wool over the eyes of me, quite frankly, or any other indigenous English person who has that seemingly rare resource these days called common sense. Hell, even the EU's own laws state that genuine asylum seekers must claim asylum in the first safe EU country they get to. So, if that's the case, why the hell are there so many here coming over to the UK, That's the thing. There are quite a load of countries, including France, that are still a part of the European Union. The group of unelected bureaucrats in Brussels who have no sense of democracy whatsoever and are thoroughly anti-democratic and would rather we were all ruled under one army, one anthem and one flag. Well, there's only 2 flags I respect, the Union Jack and the English Cross. No other flags are to be flown in this country. Because at the end of the day, this is England. Last time I checked, it's not Germany, it's not Afghanistan, it's not Eritrea, it's not Greece, it's not Finland, it's not Morocco. I could go on. But if those people over there had actually done their job, if the World Health Organization or the WEF actually did their fucking jobs, they would have stopped these invaders from coming to our country, just like that, because they wouldn't be able to claim asylum in the UK. But this is the thing. The EU have also been known for punishing us because we dared to leave the thoroughly anti-democratic European Union, who we were paying £55 million a day in gross tax, just for the privilege of having no control of our laws, no control of our borders, and have an uncontrolled tide of foreign invaders coming into our country. And now we have Keir the traitor Starmer, Boris the clown Johnson, treasonous Theresa May, and all the others who knew about this, to the point they imposed a super injunction. For context, that basically means no one is allowed to talk about it. It's a complete media blackout as far as that story is concerned. So in other words, they're not allowed to tell you about it. Nobody is allowed to mention this to anyone. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. And people wonder why we're getting pissed off. The establishment wonders why we're fed up of their treachery, their deceit, their lies. And they wonder why this country is about to blow a fucking gasket. I mean, I could be being stupid here, I don't know, but maybe it's the fact that you are constantly lying to the English people. Maybe it's the fact that you are putting English nationals second and foreign invaders first. Maybe it could be the fact that you have imprisoned people for speaking out against your government. Lucy Connolly, Wayne O'Rourke, Julie Sweeney, just to name a few. Peter Lynch, God rest his soul, for daring to have the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to stand up to your treacherous regime and call you out for basically your dictatorship. The fact that you're willing to suppress freedom of speech on people while you allow loads of these rape gangs to continue to go unmolested. Sorry for the pun. But you allow these people to go unmolested. You don't have their collars felt when they're the ones who are endangering our fucking kids. I don't know about you, but I think I'd be prioritising the rape gangs over people who said things that hurt someone's feelings. But maybe I'm using too much common sense here. Maybe I'm just too normal a person to actually allow the establishment to get away with its innumerable number of crimes against the English people. But it's that all these stories have literally been degrading my IQ since day one. Anyway, the fact is there's so many crimes that have been committed against the English people by this treacherous oligarchy that I couldn't even begin to tell you how many crimes have been committed against the people. And I know people are going to say that we need to vote them out the next general election. I know people are going to say we need to do it peacefully. And I accept that would be the moral high ground to take. I do accept that is the above-board way to do things. But as I've said before, I don't think we've got 4 years to wait. We're lucky if we've got 9 months to wait, quite frankly. Think of a ship in the middle of the ocean that's just been hit by a cannonball. Think of that. Our ship is taking on water right now. We need solutions, not problems. We need people who are going to patch the holes, not create new ones. We need people to, quote, was it Liam Tuff who said it, or was it Nick Tanconi? We need people with the testicular fortitude, or for the women, the guts, as it were. We need people who have the guts to actually stand up and say, enough is enough. And I've said this before, and I'll say it here again. Every single day that there is not a vote of no confidence in the Labour Party is another day every single MP in that party is complicit to the dictatorship. Every single day that goes by that they don't resolve this issue is another day that they can be held responsible for all the injustices and all the crimes that have been committed to the English people and their children. Every single day that Keir the traitor Starmer is still allowed to run as Prime Minister is another day the English people are put in danger. And every single day that that treacherous Prime Minister is still in power is another day where the English people are put at serious risk of this country falling into a civil war. And just as a quick reminder, if I was going to go to jail for suggesting civil war, I would have been put in jail at least 9 months ago, quite frankly. I have always said I do not advocate for it. I do not advocate for a violent revolution. I do not condone the violence of what happened in the Southport riots. And I will always stand by that. But there is no amount of not wanting to condone this stuff and actively condemning it. No amount of morality is going to change the fact, the cold, bitter truth, that we are at serious risk of falling into a civil war. It's like those people who go and set themselves, the daredevils, the people who set themselves on fire and they dress up in all of this fire retardant clothing and they hope to break the Guinness Book of World Records. Well, they should use a saw for that. Anyway, it's like those people who set themselves on fire and literally try to go for that record, and they are willing to see themselves become the human flame for extended periods of time. It's only a matter of time before that kind of protection wears down, and then what you end up with is civil war, or in their case, you could end up dead. Because believe it or not, England, the English people, don't want this country to become a third world shithole, believe it or not. The English people actually want their country back. They don't want foreign invaders destroying our country and for Sharia law to become the new actual law. And speaking of which, I believe Richard Inman, who I know I've had my fallings out with him, but he has actually put out a video that is very credible, which basically involves we need to take action. And there are a couple of forms that need to be filled out, what have you. Basically, we need to start saying, we do not want Islamophobia to be a part of this country. We do not want made up fucking words dictating what we can and can't say about a death cult religion, because that is effectively what Islam is. But that's something the mainstream media would, of course, rather not tell you. Because right now, it is being debated in the houses of treachery, I mean Parliament, or maybe I was right first time, that they're going to decide whether or not we actually have a law based off of Islamophobia. Just to remind everyone, and to make this perfectly clear, I am against all forms of genuine racism. I am not a fan of people who want to discriminate against people for factors they can't help, like the colour of their own skin, the pigment in their eyes, whether they're short or tall, whether they're male or female. I am completely against that kind of racism and discrimination. But here's the thing. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. People seem to be willing to criticise Christianity, and that's fair enough. People criticise Christianity, and sometimes I do take a few jabs at it every now and again when I say, no, Jesus can't help me now, I'm too far gone. And I know someone will kill me for that comment, but hey-ho. But jokes aside, there are people who criticise Christianity, they never get arrested. Police have been asked and basically interrogated point blank, and they basically tell them, well, it seems to be okay for you to criticise these other religions, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism and all that shit, but when it comes to Islam, oh, then the police are like, you can't be talking about that, you're going to inflame someone, you're going to hurt someone's feelings. What makes Islam so special that they get this
preferential treatment. Last time I checked, Islam is a religion, not a race. Therefore, it's not racism to put valid criticisms towards a religion. I know it's a cold, bitter pill for the extremist Muslims in that group to comprehend, but the cold, bitter truth is, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. What's good for Jesus is good for Muhammad as well. But we have seen time and time again how intolerant Islam is. When we've seen them commit the Charlie Hebdo attack in France. Was this back in like 2013 or something? I know it was in the 2010s, but the way I look at it, they committed those Hebdo attacks because somebody made a satirical comic, I believe, depicting Muhammad. This is how intolerant Islam is. If you criticize their prophet, you are subject to attack. You are subject to terrorist actions. You are subject to the most vile abuse from the most subhuman types of people in their culture. Hell, we have people who even go out of their way, who went out of their way to celebrate the 7/7 bombings that happened in London. And bear in mind as well, Sadiq Khan was even with one of those families offering support for one of the terrorists' families. Bear that in mind when you next think of the failed mayor of London, who's about as effective as a hydrogen fire extinguisher. But I guess to draw a line in the sand on all this is, why did they keep this from the public? Do they want to cause a civil war? Did they bring in these 25,000 Afghanis to bolster what would be considered their Islamic army? The Islamic army that sees the Labour Party as useful idiots? The same people that their own Quran tells them that it's perfectly okay to beat your wife, that it's perfectly okay to give homosexual people who are convicted of adultery, to give them a free first-class ticket off the top of a high-storey building, or to stone them to death. I don't think that's okay, personally. And the same ideology that if we end up having Sharia law in this country, if the English people are treated as second-class citizens, then women are going to be treated as third-class citizens. And when they do if they take over the country, I shouldn't say when, because that's implying that they're going to do it anyway, but if they do succeed in taking over this country, let's say they do for the sakes of argument, Labour, what do you think is going to happen to you? The first thing that Islam's going to do is they're going to put a collar over you. They are going to, metaphorically speaking, put the dog collar on you and say, good boy, well done, now sit. Because you will have outlived your usefulness, and they will effectively see you as dirty kafir, much like they see us as enemies of Islam. Thank you. And the sad reality of all this is the leftoids will continue to blindlessly let more Afghanis and more foreign invaders into this country. And what they fail to realise that by doing so is they are effectively opening up a Pandora's box of absolute hell that will be unleashed in the United Kingdom if we allow these invaders to stay. And I've only just found this out now. Apparently those Afghanis that have been saved back in, I believe, 2021, well, apparently they're now suing £1 billion for apparent data breach. Nice, huh? Absolute thankless bastards. And I'll give you 3 guesses how this information didn't get out to the public. I'll give you a clue. It was something I mentioned earlier, not just the super injunction, but I think you know what I mean. Oh, I tell you what, I really shouldn't buy these fucking things. This lemon and lime stuff, it's puckering up my face like a cat's ass. Oh God. You said now he shits from both ends. Shut up, Q, I'm not that bad. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, this is how intolerant these Afghanis are. Or at least the vast majority of them anyway. That's what happens when most of them are under the religion of Islam. Khalergi and Windrush bring to mind as well, as far as this whole migrant crisis, in air quotes, is concerned. There's only one group of people we should be looking after first, and that's us, the English people. If we're not being put first, the government isn't doing its job. And I want to make this perfectly clear.
Because when I say we need to put ourselves first, I say it in the context of look after yourself before you go handing out to others. You should be making sure that you've got money in your own hands before you go and transfer it to other people's. That's the way I look at it. You should be looking after yourself before you start thinking about, well, let's open up the floodgates and let them all in. A bit like what Labour's trying to do with this new approach of, let's lower the age of people that can vote. Let's lower the voting age limit to 16 years old. Now, from what I understand, I think a lot of people are saying that this is going to backfire in Keir the traitor Starmer's face. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. I think this could be a plan by Keir the traitor Starmer to lower the age. That way, he can put up stuff that looks really good on paper, but then when you actually take a closer look, those who are going to take a look at that paper are going to realise, oh look, it's shit. I think I got it in the box behind me. Fucking hell, that was a nice shot. Anyway, the fact is, they're going to do that because they're going to want people to think with their emotions. They're going to want to think, wow, that looks really great. But if you look at the small print, that's where Labour will be unfurled. Like a cheap rag. They know full well that the vast majority of teenagers are not, how do I put this? They're not ready for the world of politics. A lot of them, when they look at politics, they're not going to be as clued up as some of the people who've lived for 30 years, for 40 years, for 50 years, etc., etc. I mean, that's just obvious from an experience standpoint because they've lived longer. But it's beside the point. The point is, they're not going to know a lot about how politics works. And most of the time, when they start thinking about stuff, hell, I remember how I was when I was a teenager. Like, there's a fucking video game I want for my Xbox or PlayStation or my PC or whatever. I'm like, I want that. Not actually thinking about, well, what's it going to do to me? What's it going to do to me financially? Obviously, I didn't have to worry back then, but I'm putting it there as an example. Most of these young people are not going to think with their heads. They're going to be thinking with this. No, not my jugs. Shut up. They're going to be thinking with their hearts, not their heads. They're going to be as impulsive as I've been. They're going to think, do it now, ask questions later. No, you need to ask questions first. You need to pick apart every piece of what Labour is doing. You need to pick apart every manifesto. No matter who you're planning to vote for in the next general election, whether it's in 3 months or 3 years, you need to pick apart and research everything to do with that party's manifesto. Because otherwise, it's like jumping headfirst into the Pacific Ocean in the middle of it. You don't know if you're going to get put next to an island. You don't know if you're going to have a shark come up and bite your fucking ankles. You don't know if there's going to be a ship come along and save you from the Pacific. Like, there is such an unknown in this political ocean. You simply cannot go into that thing unprepared. If you fail to prepare, then you prepare to fail, quite frankly. But that is what Keir the traitor Starmer is counting on. He's counting on a lot of young people to fail to realise that his party is a party of deceit, of treachery, of sectarianism, of persecution, and a party that ultimately puts themselves above everyone else. Every fucking party that has ever existed should have been made on the pretense that they follow the people's mandate.
What was it Ronald Reagan said? I think he said something about a car. Yes. The people are the drivers. The government is the car. And the people decide where they want to go, what route they want to take, and how fast. And if the car doesn't like that, then they can get rid of that car and get a new one that will follow instructions. Keir the traitor Starmer would do well to remember that. Because right now, he's not doing what the people have asked. I know there are some people who have less brains than a lobotomized troll, but here's the thing. A lot of us have to suffer with those consequences. We have to suffer the ignoramuses that went out of their way to vote for the Labour Party, or again, maybe I was right first time, who went out of their way to make sure that these treacherous, sectarian, disingenuous bastards got into power. And now these same bastards are squeezing their thumb on us. They're screwing over the people just for the sakes of political correctness, DEI, and Marxist agendas. If you ask the people today, do you want mass uncontrolled immigration? The vast majority, stroke number one, it had to happen sooner or later, vast majority of people would say, fuck off. If you ask them back in the 1990s when this shit was starting to go down, I'm willing to bet if you told them, would you like to have mass uncontrolled immigration, they'd show you the fucking door, quite frankly. I know I would, and I'd be following it up with the remark, let the door hit you on the way out. Because we don't want to become the world's dumping ground. Last time I checked, this country is called the United Kingdom, not the United Dumping Ground. Keir the traitor Starmer needs to show his indigenous people of England some fucking respect. And stop libelously slandering us as far right. There is nothing far right about us. There is nothing far right about wanting to have your country protected. There is nothing far right about wanting the borders to be secure. There is nothing far right about wanting to remove the 39,000 or so terrorists on the MI5 watch list that are costing the taxpayers millions of pounds, if not billions, every fucking year. There is no benefit to allowing foreign criminals to stay in our country at our behest, at our expense, as well as putting the ordinary public in real danger, where they could get killed, they could get raped, they could become part of a terrorist attack, they could get kidnapped, all sorts could happen. But rather than have the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to actually take out the trash, Keir the traitor Starmer would rather say, no, let the taxpayer pay for it. Fuck them. We don't care about them anyway. Of course, Keir the traitor Starmer won't pay any attention to somebody like me. And even if he did hear me or see me or whatever, I mean, you can hardly miss me. I look like two people. Anyway, even if he saw someone like me, it would go in one ear and out the other. Because that man is a narcissistic cunt. He is a man with no moral compass, no decency, no integrity, no nothing. He simply does what the puppeteers in the WEF ask him to do. Every single day, like I said, every single day that this wanker is not put before a vote of no confidence, the nonce party are complicit in this country's destruction. They are complicit in endangering millions of native English people. I don't know about you, but that is truly unforgivable. But what absolutely melts my brain, makes me literally take IQ damage here, is the mere idea there's still like 22% of people that would still vote for this party. Like, for the love of God, just sometimes I really wish I could end it, quite frankly. Just go, because it really does blow my mind to think that there are people that are this, and I'm going to say it, mentally retarded, that they could still see Keir the traitor Starmer as votable, that they could see the Labour Party representing them. Look how much damage they've done in a year. 1 year. And we are hemorrhaging money. Hemorrhaging money, persecuting patriots, increasing taxes, increasing utility bills, allowing foreign invaders into the country, endangering national security, trying to get us to conscript into a war that's nothing to do with us, whether it's Iran or whether it's fucking Russia. And that's just 7 things I've pointed out. Everything to do with Keir the traitor Starmer is evil. I have never seen a man that is so morally bankrupt, so treacherous, and so unimaginably evil. He makes Michael Myers look like a fucking party guy. I swear to God. Honestly, if I had a choice between hanging out with Keir the traitor Starmer and Michael Myers from the fucking film series Halloween, I'd go with the fucking serial killer, quite frankly. Like, I am really losing the will to live with this fucker every single day he's in power. I really am. Like, what I would give for an immediate removal of this piece of shit. I don't think there is one decent English person who will be able to say that Keir the traitor Starmer has done any good for this country, other than the fact that he has basically made his nonce party all but unelectable. I can't see any way, unless we have a massive surge of brain death in this country, I cannot see Keir the traitor Starmer getting back in. And frankly, I worry that if he does get back in, it will be like somebody's turned the key in the nuclear silo and then has pushed the red button. Because that's what will happen in this country. It'll all go to anarchy. Like, if it doesn't go to anarchy in the next 9 to 12 months, it certainly will if that man gets into power again or retains his power again. Like, I cannot imagine how many people would willingly have this piece of shit. I am really struggling to control myself here. But this piece of shit in power. Like, I am physically boiling inside. Like, if it was legal, there are things that I would do. Let's just leave it at that. Though, to be fair, I think that probably echoes in millions of English people, quite frankly. But I will say one last point before I rule the bottom line, and that is, Keir the traitor Starmer might get the civil war he wants, but as I've said many, many times before, if he does, he won't be able to blame the far right or the Tories or whoever for starting a civil war. He'll only have himself to blame. And the bottom line is this. We, the people, should not fear our government. Governments should fear their people. They need to remember that they are supposed to represent the people of the country. And if they are not doing what the people want, we can take out the trash and place it in the dustbin of history and bring in a new party that will hopefully enact the wishes of the people. That's what I'd like to believe at this point. Unfortunately, it will not be like that as long as we have the first past the post system in place. Because that thing is a guaranteed lib-lab con machine. It is a special machine that fakes democracy, that pretends like a carcass being paraded in front of us. Here's democracy, guys. Here's democracy. Oh, look, it's me again, fuckers. That's what it is. And Labour are not doing what the English people have asked. Well, the English people have had enough. If it does descend to revolution, to civil war, they'll only be able to blame themselves. The people will not tolerate this anymore. If you're willing to lie through your teeth about the Afghanis, if you're willing to impose a super injunction to cover it up so that even the fucking media can't mention this, how much more have you got hiding Keir the traitor Starmer? And how much have you got to hide Tories and liberal Democrats? Please answer that question, because it's not a fucking request. It's a command. You have so much to answer for. Maybe what this country needs is a complete purge of the political parties. And we need to bring in people that understand what it's like to be a real politician, not one of these career politicians that puts money and power first. The way I see it, this country is going down so quickly because of our treacherous oligarchy. And we need to do something about it. This is not an Islamic country. This is a Christian country. I accept that. We need to restore Christianity to the forefront, to the heart of our system. Jesus may have died on this cross, but we will be fighting for this one.